Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. I am glad you found us. We are up to episode number 42. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins. Just like last time, episode number 41, we're going to talk about economic development trends. I'm going to be with this guy here in just a sec. This is Jason Giulietti. He is with Central SC Alliance. Jason will be right to you in a minute. But if you missed episode number 41, I'm going to encourage you to take a look at it. I'll have it up on the screen. We'll have a QR code or something that you can click. So do that. I talked with two people in episode number 41. Max Stewart. Max is the new CEO, almost brand new, only here a couple months. He's from Bradenton, Florida. Good dude. Check him out. I also talked to Chris Rizzo. Chris is one of two partners at a company called Clear Mountain Properties. They are a real estate investment firm as well as a property management company. But now, episode number 42. Jason Giulietti, he is the CEO. He's not been here. He's been here a lot longer than Max, but still not very long, right? You've been about a year at Central SC Alliance. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Just over a year, and happy to be at episode number 42. As a baseball fan, I'll take it, right?
Hey.
Jackie Robinson. I will take
excellent.
number 42. So thank you.
I didn't think about that. We'll throw a photo up on the screen. But yeah, that's a good point. So you came over from Columbia just for the episode. Appreciate it. You came here from Texas. Before that, you were up in the Northeast somewhere, Connecticut, I believe?
Connecticut, that's right. So born and raised in Connecticut, went to undergrad and graduate school there, found my way into economic development right out of school, and have fell in love with the field. Been in it now over 20 years.
Yep.
On my way to Texas, I tell everybody I got to the South as fast as I could.
Right.
That's the key. And loved Texas for the last 5 years, did some transformative stuff, and then had the opportunity to come into Columbia and South Carolina. And a year later, here I am.
You know, Texas, of course, is the South, and South Carolina is the South. But I have a feeling it's two different Souths.
Very much so. South Carolina is the South.
That's right.
Texas,
that's right.
You know, there's a lot of shades going on in there, different colors.
And yeah, that's what I was going to say. But South Carolina is pure Southern.
100%. I mean, we used to joke in the States. So El Paso, right, in Texas, was closer to San Diego than it was to get to the capital of Austin. So you think about just geography-wise, it was a massive state, very different economies throughout the state. But to come to South Carolina, I found it's a very small world, and in a good way. But it's one you can quickly understand, and you know they're just true to who they are. And in our industry, that's a good thing, right? It makes it easier to sell the state.
Right. Before we get into details, though, let's talk Central SC Alliance. Great. Now, you guys are kind of a sister organization to Upstate SC Alliance.
That's right.
And your counterpart there is John Lummis, of course. Tell me, is the Low Country sister organization, is that CRDA?
That is, yes, correct. So there's 8 of us, regional alliances around the state of South Carolina, covering all 46 counties. Right. So we are the center of the state, where we include the capital city of Columbia, and then kind of, it's not a circle, it's kind of a C, covering as far north as Newberry County and as far south as Orangeburg.
So tell us about Central SC Alliance. How many employees you got?
Sure. We are up to 8 employees right now. We are an organization that is 30 years old this year. So we're celebrating that anniversary in a big way, kind of relaunching the organization, call it, right? We had a longtime CEO who had passed away several years ago, and since then had a lot of transition in leadership, and I think we got our footing under our most recent CEO, who has now gone to the private sector. The organization brought me on in September of last year, and we've kind of tried to relaunch the organization, galvanize our stakeholders, galvanize our community, reinvent our value proposition with our communities, and go out there and do what we're meant to do, which is bring jobs and investment into South Carolina.
Well, let's talk about jobs and investment. You've had a couple of really good years. You came at a good time. You came right in the middle of some good. So, you know, feel free to take all the credit as you wish. But if I recall correctly, 2023, a record year. 2022, a record year before that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 2023, we're looking at a few $1 billion investment, several thousand, maybe 4,000 or so jobs that came out. Give me the highlights of 2023.
So 23 was an outlier year in a tremendous way with the attraction and win of Scout Motors. Mm-hmm. Scout Motors, a Volkswagen subsidiary, for those that don't know about it, tremendous pedigree. I share with folks, what's funny there is when I was in Texas, I was working with our governor to attract Volkswagen to Texas. So when I left Texas and came here, I'm like, well, I know this crew.
Right.
And sure enough, it selected South Carolina, ultimately the Columbia region, for their new facility to build that concept vehicle and ultimately produce it at scale. So that was a huge win for us. That was multi-billion-dollar investment. one that'll be transformative for the region. So it really set a new bar for the organization and the region and how we attract companies, right? When you get into the B's, the numbers really become significant for job creation.
Right.
And it's led us to springboard right into 24. So as we look into where we are now, we're about 4 months into our fiscal year at this point, and we've already eclipsed $1.3 billion of investment in just those short 4 months that we've been into the fiscal year. So momentum is certainly mounted, and we've taken full advantage of it.
So we're off to a great start for your fiscal in 2024, even though we're coming to the end of the year.
Correct.
When you get to the end of it, are you going to be close to $2.25 billion?
I think we're going to be darn close, if not actually over that. So I will tell you, since we regalvanized the organization, we've hit the throttle pretty hard on developing and filling the lead funnel for our communities, right? We represent 8 counties in the capital city, all of which have a different value proposition. And the only way you go out and get stronger success is to fill that funnel, right? Just in any other business development model, the more that goes in the funnel, the more that comes out. Right. So we've hit that gas pedal really hard. I will tell you, our prospect and activity level is at its highest it's ever been. So we've had successful years the past 2 years without hitting that level of engagement. And now with this now at a next level, I think we're poised to be well above that, honestly, by the end of the year.
Let's talk about main industries in the Midlands.
Sure.
Okay. So we got healthcare in the Midlands, right? We got IT in the Midlands. We've got manufacturing, advanced manufacturing across the state of South Carolina. From your perspective, what's the biggest? Not necessarily what brings the most money into the economy, but I would like to know that. But also just what is the one that is just kind of bringing folks in right now, the hot market, the hot industry.
So I think it's a combination of several. So one, advanced manufacturing continues to find South Carolina's home. So our region's certainly a benefactor of that, no doubt. Right. I think the emerging sector that we see a lot of potential and excitement around is the life science and biotech space. Yeah. We've partnered really closely with the statewide association, SC Bio, and get in alignment with their strategy. They have some new leadership that's been in place just a little bit longer than I have that's really helped catapult that organization and industry in the state. And there's some really differentiating value propositions that we have in the Midlands because we're home to MUSC, a very, very large campus. They're building a new medical school at the University of South Carolina, and they'll have a brand new presence alongside that lab space that will come online. So I think it's really bringing together tremendous opportunities for the Midlands in that space. And then the other area that I think really, really excites us is around the battery and battery storage space. And I say that because the state was awarded what's called the SC Nexus designation. It was a technology hub designation by the federal government. South Carolina was blessed to get one of the 31 in the state. Of those 31, only 15 were funded. We were one of the 15. And by all of those things coming together in cybersecurity, grid resiliency, battery storage, all of that puts on the map South Carolina as the home of that future industry vertical.
This is surprising to me that life sciences has become so big so quick. What has been the impetus for making life sciences this hot new industry in South Carolina?
Sure. I think it's some of the expertise that we have within the state. The story we have to tell, and for example, the neuroscience space and the Alzheimer's space, are differentiators around the globe. And I think by having those type of differentiators and the value proposition with a real story to tell behind it, that's what industry wants, right? They don't want to go take a risk on a new location, especially in that space, into a new part of the country. But here, when you have the story and the infrastructure set up to leverage and ultimately take it to the next level, that's what industry wants. And I think they're seeing that in those two spaces within life science. And that's where, if we can go out and tell that story better, more and more resources will come to the table, leveraging the university, leveraging our medical campuses to really bring it forward.
South Carolina, growing state. As a matter of fact, in terms of percentage growth, South Carolina, the fastest growing state in the country. I think 1.7% last year. Texas, second at 1.6%. And I was talking to Max Stewart about this last time too. Florida, tied with second at number 2 at 1.6%. So we got our two econ dev guys that moved here from fast-growing places to another fast-growing place. Similarities?
Very much so. And I tell everybody, I jokingly say, I like to fish where the fish are, right? There's no reason to go out there, go to a place that's not really a commodity out there in a good way. So yeah, Texas, I mean, it was fascinating. When my organization that I had left in Texas had the fastest growing and third fastest growing counties in the entire country. So talk about inflow of people, massive growth in terms of population growth. So used to that environment, the challenges, but also the opportunities that came with it. So coming to South Carolina, it was great to already understand that world, and then also explain to the residents here why that this growth is a good thing and how you could manage it appropriately. Because you don't want to just grow overnight and change the fabric of what makes this place great, but there's ways to incrementally grow, providing more economic opportunity for those residents while still preserving the natural resources and assets that we like here in our backyard.
Providing a little bit of context for the growth, folks, so that 1.7%, that equated to about 90,000 people that moved into South Carolina. About 12,000 of that 90,000 moved into the Midlands. What are the types of people that are moving into the Midlands and the types of jobs that they're looking for?
And that's ultimately what we're in the business of, is right? It's providing those jobs to those residents that are coming here. So you're seeing more.
And economic development goes hand in hand with the population growth.
That's right. And we have to attract those residents of all ages, right? I think what we've seen is more working age people. I think the other parts of the state in the South, right, attract more of the retiree for the resources and the oceanfront and that lifestyle, which is great. Right. But we need to attract that working age adult to come into the population. And that's what we saw come here. The jobs that are coming, the announcements and the magnitude and size of the job announcements we've had are showing folks from around the country there's opportunity to be here. And we're taking that and even diversifying it further. For example, in the city of Columbia, their capital city, it's got a lot of opportunity. It did not overbuild during the last two boom cycles. But now we're at a point where there's enough momentum that we can truly build that city out to attract the new age insurtech job, the new age fintech job, that quite honestly, some of these folks don't want to go move into a city that's extremely expensive. You could come here, live in a suburb like I do, right outside of the city, and enjoy a really nice quality of life at a lot less money than it would be to go to an Atlanta, Charlotte, or somewhere else in the country. You could come and enjoy that lifestyle while still having access to city amenities, a university community like we have in USC, because it's just amazing when you have that in your backyard as a resource, the type of environment you're in. You're in a vibrant community. Mm-hmm. And I think that perpetuates through why folks are finding our region as a good place to be.
The unemployment rate in South Carolina, it was minuscule pre-COVID, right? We were on, and you weren't here at the time, but you've probably researched a little, you've probably seen it. But we were less than 3%, quite a bit less than 3%. One of the best in the country in terms of an unemployment rate. Of course, COVID hit, and over the last few years, South Carolina, along with a lot of others, has been on a roller coaster ride a little bit. It got horrible, and then all of a sudden it got really, really good again. And now it's kind of gone the other way a little. South Carolina struggling worse than the nation as a whole in terms of unemployment rate, and the Midlands struggling right now. The last I looked, around 4.5% to 5% unemployment rate. What's going on there?
So key there is it's actually a positive thing. There's actually more folks coming into the workforce looking for jobs. Okay. So that
glass half full. I like it.
That's the challenge there.
Like
that number often gets misperceived when the ups and downs are. Yeah. When we're at full employment, like we are at a sub 3%, it just means there's not a lot of people out there looking for jobs. Where now new folks are coming to the community, or folks are seeing more opportunity and are willing to make adjustments. So you see spikes in that because more folks are now in that queue that they count as part of that unemployment rate, actively looking for work. Where a year ago they might not have been actively looking for work because they didn't think there was opportunity. Mm-hmm. But the minute they enter that job search process, they then all of a sudden get counted in that rate, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden you see a spike in the number. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a testament that our economy is actually growing, mm-hmm. and we're attracting more and more job opportunities for those residents. So they're coming into the workforce more than they were before.
That's right. Yeah, and I'm with you. And yeah, I agree. But at the same time, we have a ton of jobs we can't fill.
That's right.
Especially in the advanced manufacturing world.
That's right.
Other industries that will as well. But let's face it, right now advanced manufacturing is driving the South Carolina economy. Of course, tourism always is there, and agriculture is always there, people forget about. But advanced manufacturing is where it's at right now for professional jobs. We can't fill jobs.
That's right. That's right. So we're working a lot with partners, right? With Ready SC at the state level, our community college systems, even into the K through 12 system, trying to help educate the youth to understand these are viable careers.
That's right.
And you're not just educating the kids, you're educating the parents.
That's
right. If the parents think it's a good career, they'll encourage the kid to go into it.
Yeah.
And in our state, it's a very viable career because you have options, right? You have an ability to work at one place and move up that economic ladder because you have a lot of those jobs here. If you just have one and you're stuck in it, unfortunately, you don't see that path forward. But in our state, you have those opportunities and in cutting edge technologies. So we're working with a lot of those partners to either get more on the job training, take those workers who may have been displaced for whatever reason, into another career path, or also just educate those kids that look at the vibrancy that you can have and the amount of money you can make coming out of a 2-year degree, a high school degree. It's unreal, right? It's more than I made when I came out of college, and I went to 6 years of college with graduate school, and they're coming out making that out of high school.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you're exactly right. The job that we have in South Carolina is to convince parents, to show parents what these careers look like. Because as I've said on this show before, I said it to Max Stewart on the last episode, this ain't your daddy's manufacturing anymore.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
This ain't your granddaddy's manufacturing. These jobs look so much different than they did way back when. You go into a manufacturing facility and you can eat off the floor.
I was just going to say that exact same comment. It is cleaner than you've ever seen before.
It's amazing.
And the advanced machinery, equipment, the type of things that
That's
are
right.
happening, it blows people's minds. You
That's
don't
right.
see it, right? It's behind closed doors. So
Yeah.
unless you get a chance to peek inside like some
Yeah.
of us do, you don't realize how sophisticated it's become.
You talk about working with partners to solve some of these issues and to work on some of these issues. I'm going to assume that your partners are the South Carolina Technical College system, and the colleges that are under that to some degree.
Right.
How do you work with organizations, educational institutions like that to solve workforce problems?
So it is a mutual beneficial relationship all the time. So we have, for example, we're hosting a bunch of site selectors into our community in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
One of the co-chairs of that event is the president and CEO of one of the community colleges of the technical system, to make sure that they are in every single conversation that we're having to educate these folks when they're in town. So we partner with them, one, through leveraging not only their students, certainly that's a tremendous resource and goes without saying, but beyond that, it's the research capabilities that are happening there. Their relationships with industry to solve the problems of current companies in South Carolina or future companies that would be considering it, because they're doing hands-on problem solving for companies every day. At the community college level, like you had mentioned, when I went to Midlands Tech and walked through the shop floor, look at the type of companies that are on the wall that they're solving their challenges. You go to USC, a whole nother level that they're going on and working on. They're working on defense contracts that they can't even talk about to solve them for the U.S. military.
Yeah.
So our goal is to take all of those things, and not just in business and engineering, which are the two logical. We go into every school and college and figure out ways to collaborate, because they're producing information and attracting talent here in ways that if we're not leveraging it, we're missing the boat. And in my world, that's a huge partner for us. So we partner with not just the school systems, but anybody we can that can help better position the state as a place for business.
I'm going to go back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. It just popped into my head, and I didn't want to let the idea get away. And going back to population growth for a second,
Yes.
one of the things that a problem that exists with population growth is affordable housing. And affordable housing has been a topic for us here in South Carolina for a while. We need more of it. How is Columbia, where do you all stand with affordable housing, and how are you working to fix that problem?
It's a need across the board, no doubt.
Right.
And it's when we say affordable housing, it is not what people might think of as a Section 8 housing. This is so that your waiter, waitress, your teacher, your firefighter has a place to live.
Right. These days we're talking $250,000 homes.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's what we're talking
That's
about.
right. That's exactly right. And it's important to make that distinction, because sometimes people get the stigma that we're going a different path. But yeah, so it is a problem throughout the state. The good part is we are still semi-affordable. So yes, it's an issue. We don't have enough inventory. We can use just tremendous growth in terms of new houses going up. We think there's enough going up. There's by no means enough going up. And then the challenge for us is also diversity of housing, right? So more folks are telling us in our region, they want to live in the capital city. They want to take advantage of those amenities and live there, not have to go into the suburbs to do it. So we're also trying to work really hard to bring on a diversity of options, condos, townhomes, on top of the single family resident homes, and find them an opportunity to be in the city or be in close proximity while still growing the suburbs just as much. Right. So it's that dichotomy we're struggling with. We're trying to support every type of activity that comes forward on it, because we recognize it's an important thing to have. Otherwise, we're not going to have anybody to fill the jobs we're bringing into the community. So for us, that's been a really big priority, and one that we're trying to get behind anybody that wants to bring solutions.
Let's talk about 2025. Sure. What do you see on the horizon? And I'll start you out just by asking this. Are there any big wins that you're close to or that you see coming down the road?
Definitely. I will say 100%.
Can you tell us about it?
I'd love to, but I can't.
All right.
But I would tell you, So what's exciting here is, the election's coming up, right? We're going to have a big presidential election and kind of obviously statewide. And
it's kind of a big thing.
A little bit, you
yeah.
kind of think, right? It's going to be influential on where we go. And I think a big thing for us and what we're experiencing is the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, really infused a lot of potential capital into the market. A lot of projects that otherwise would have went out of the country are considering the U.S. The challenge is that money is not, there's not a very clear path on how that money is going to get deployed.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of projects that have some kind of connection to that. And I think based upon how the election cycle goes, that will really dictate whether or not a project goes one way or the other.
Right.
So for us, there's a lot of things right now getting close to the goal line.
I'll get you out of here on this. You can't talk about any specifics, but can you give us an idea of when the next announcement might come?
I will say you'll see several of us before the end of the year.
How about that?
You'll definitely see a couple more out of us, and I think by the early part of 25, some big ones. So I'm pretty confident that they'll track on that timeline. Again, that presidential impact will kind of push it a little bit,
That's
but I think for the most part, I'm pretty confident that we have some big things that are sitting. Literally, I say the goal line because a little push and we're in the end zone. So I think that's all we need is just to get past this.
I love it.
This pause in the election cycle, which again is only several weeks away. So we're in good shape.
I love it. That is great news, Jason. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for joining us, folks. That's Jason Giulietti. Impressive guy. Been here about a year and a couple months, and so we're glad to have him. He's the CEO at Central SC Alliance. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We'll see you next time.